The crystal towers of the Etherian capital stretched toward the sky like frozen lightning. Taman stood at the edge of the landing platform, watching ships come and go. His hands were still dirty from working on the freighter's engine. He was just a mechanic. Nothing special. Just another human trying to make a living in a galaxy that barely noticed his kind. The diplomatic summit was happening in the Grand Plaza below. Taman had no business being there, but his captain had sent him to deliver some repair parts to the Royal Guard's maintenance bay. Wrong place, wrong time, or maybe exactly the right place at the right time. He walked through the crowded streets. Aliens of every shape and size filled the plaza. The Etherians were tall and elegant with skin that seemed to glow with inner light. They looked at humans the way someone might look at a clever pet. Interesting, but not important. The ceremony was already starting when Taman reached the plaza. He should have turned back, delivered his parts, and left. But something made him stop. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was fate. She stood on the central platform, surrounded by guards in gleaming armor. Queen Heejin of the Etherian Empire. Even from a distance, she was stunning. Her silver robes moved like water, and her presence commanded respect from everyone around her. She was giving a speech about peace and unity. Her voice carried across the plaza strong and clear. Taman found himself pushing through the crowd to get a better view. He did not know why. He just felt drawn forward. The Queen was talking about cooperation between species when Taman noticed something wrong. A group of maintenance workers near the platform were moving strangely. Their movements were too sharp, too focused. Taman had grown up on the streets of Seoul before leaving Earth. He knew what killers looked like. His heart started pounding. He looked around for guards, but they were all watching the crowd, not the workers. The assassins were already too close. Everything happened in seconds. One of the fake workers pulled out a blade that shimmered with purple energy. A quantum blade. Taman had heard about them. They could cut through almost anything, even energy shields. The assassin moved with inhuman speed, leaping toward the Queen. The royal guards turned, but they were too slow. The blade was already coming down toward Hyejin's chest. Taman did not think. Thinking was too slow. His body just moved. He crashed through the last line of spectators and threw himself forward. His shoulder hit the Queen's side, pushing her away. He felt the blade enter his chest, cold and burning at the same time. Pain exploded through his body. He hit the ground hard. Blood pooled beneath him. The world became noise and confusion. He heard screaming, the sound of energy weapons firing and heavy footsteps running. Through blurring vision, he saw the Queen on the ground where he had pushed her. Safe. Hands grabbed him. Someone was shouting for medical help. Taman tried to breathe, but his chest felt like it was full of broken glass. A face appeared above him. The Queen. Her eyes were wide with shock. She was saying something, but Taman could not hear the words. Everything was getting dark and quiet. The last thing he remembered was her hand touching his face and the strange thought that he was glad she was okay. When Taman woke up, he did not know where he was. The ceiling above him glowed with soft blue light. Medical equipment hummed around his bed. He tried to sit up and gasped as pain shot through his chest. A door opened. An Etherian doctor rushed in, followed by 3 others. They looked at him like he was some kind of miracle. "You should not be awake," the doctor said in perfect English. "You should not be alive." Taman touched his chest. Bandages covered the wound, but he could feel his heart beating underneath. Strong, steady. "How long?" His voice was rough. 3 days. We used our best technology to save you, but honestly, it was your own biology that made the difference. Human healing factors are remarkable. We have never seen anything like it. Over the next few hours, Taman learned what happened after he passed out. The assassins had been killed or captured. They were members of a radical faction that opposed the Queen's peace policies. The attack had failed because of him. "The Queen wishes to see you," the doctor said carefully. "When you are strong enough." "I am strong enough now." The doctor looked doubtful but called the royal guards. 2 of them arrived, their faces unreadable behind their helmets. They escorted Taman through hallways of impossible beauty. Every surface seemed to be made of light and crystal. They brought him to a private garden. Real plants grew there, brought from 100 different worlds. The Queen stood by a fountain, her back to him. When she turned, Taman saw something in her eyes he had not expected. Uncertainty. "You saved my life," she said simply. "I owe you a debt that can never be repaid." Taman shifted uncomfortably. I just did what anyone would do. No, her voice was firm. No one else moved. Not my guards, not the diplomats, not the thousands of people watching. Only you, a human, a species my people barely acknowledge. She stepped closer. What is your name? Taman. Taman, she repeated it carefully. In my language, there is a title. It is ancient and sacred. It means one who has saved the life of the monarch at the cost of their own safety. The translation to your language would be my hero. I grant you this title now. I do not understand. It means I am bound to you. Your well-being is now my personal responsibility. Any harm that comes to you is harm against me. You have a place in my court for as long as you live. Taman stared at her. Your Majesty, I am just a mechanic. I do not belong in a royal court. You are the only being in this entire capital who was brave enough to act when it mattered most. She smiled slightly. I think you belong exactly where you choose to be, but I hope you will choose to stay, at least for a while. Taman thought about his tiny quarters on the freighter. He thought about his ordinary life. Then he looked at this queen who ruled billions but spoke to him like an equal. Okay, he said. I will stay. Neither of them knew how much that simple decision would change everything. Part 2. The Debt of Honor. The royal quarters were bigger than the entire freighter Taman used to work on. He stood in the center of his new room, feeling lost. Servants had brought him clothes made from fabric that changed color with his mood. He wore simple pants and a shirt instead. They felt more real. A knock came at the door. Taman opened it to find a tall Etherian man with silver hair and cold eyes. He wore robes that marked him as someone important. I am Chancellor Daehyun, the man said. His voice was polite, but his eyes were not. I advise Queen Hyejin on all matters of state. I thought we should meet. Come in, Taman said, though something about the Chancellor made him uneasy. Daehyun walked in slowly, looking around the room. You have been given quite an honor. These quarters have housed princes and war heroes, and now a human mechanic. I did not ask for any of this. No, I suppose you did not. Daehyun turned to face him. But you have it anyway. Do you understand what the title my hero means in our culture? The queen explained it. Did she explain that it has not been granted in over 300 years? Did she tell you that every member of the court is now required to treat you with the same respect they show her? That an insult to you is an insult to the crown itself? Taman felt his stomach tighten. No, she did not mention that. Of course not. Our queen has a generous heart. Sometimes too generous. Daehyun stepped closer. I want you to understand something. I have served the royal family for 40 years. I have guided this empire through wars and disasters. I will not allow a human, no matter how brave, to destabilize everything we have built. I am not trying to destabilize anything. Perhaps not, but your presence does it anyway. Daehyun moved toward the door. Enjoy your rooms. I am sure we will see much of each other. After he left, Taman sat on the edge of his bed. He touched the bandage on his chest. What had he gotten himself into? The next morning, Hyejin came to visit him. She brought no guards, no servants, just herself wearing simpler robes than before. How are you feeling? She asked, confused mostly. Your chancellor paid me a visit. Hyejin's expression darkened. Daehyun means well, but he sees threats everywhere. Please do not judge the court by him alone. He said my title gives me a lot of power here. It does, but power is not the same as responsibility. She sat down in a chair across from him. Tell me about Earth. I have read reports, but I want to hear it from someone who lived there. Taman was surprised by the question. What do you want to know? Everything. Start with your home, so Taman told her. He talked about Seoul, about crowded streets and tall buildings. He talked about working in his father's repair shop before the old man died. He told her about the poverty, the struggle, and the day he decided to leave Earth and try his luck in the stars. Hyejin listened carefully to every word. Your people have survived so much. Wars, diseases, environmental disasters. Yet you keep going. We do not really have a choice. Everyone has a choice. Your people choose to survive. That is different. She leaned forward. Can I tell you something? When that blade was coming toward me, I froze. I am trained in combat. I have the best guards in the galaxy. But in that moment, I could not move. I was going to die, and I just stood there. You were in shock. It happens, but you were not in shock. You moved. Why? Taman thought about it. I grew up in a rough neighborhood. You learn to act fast or you get hurt. Maybe it is just habit. No, Eugene said softly. It is more than that. I have been thinking about this for days. Humans are different. You come from a world that tried to kill you at every turn, so you learned to fight back against impossible odds. My people evolved on a gentle world. We are strong, but we are not fighters. Not like you. Before Taman could respond, alarms started blaring. Heejin stood immediately, her whole posture changing. The queen was back. A guard burst through the door. Your Majesty, there has been an incident in the lower city. A protest turned violent. They are demanding you remove the human from the palace. Taman felt his blood go cold. This is because of me. This is because Daehyun has been spreading rumors, Eugene said angrily. He wants to pressure me into sending you away. Then maybe I should go. No. Her voice was sharp. I do not break my word, and I do not bow to pressure. She turned to the guard. Assemble the court. I will address this now. An hour later, Taman stood beside the queen's throne in the grand hall. Hundreds of Etherian nobles filled the room. They whispered and stared at him. Daehyun stood near the front, his face carefully neutral. Yejin raised her hand and the room fell silent. You have all heard about the protests. Some of you share their concerns. So let me be clear. Taman carries the title My Hero because he did what none of you did. He acted when action was needed. He bled so that I could live. She paused, letting her words sink in. There are those who say humans are weak, that they are unworthy of respect. I say this. Show me one among you who would throw themselves in front of a quantum blade for a stranger. Show me one who would face certain death without hesitation. The hall remained silent. I thought not. Heejin's voice softened slightly. We Etherians are proud. We have built a great empire, but pride can make us blind. We have forgotten that strength comes in many forms. Taman will remain in my court. This is not a request. It is a command. That night Taman could not sleep. He walked through the palace gardens trying to clear his head. He found Hyejin there, sitting by the fountain. I am sorry, he said. I did not mean to cause you problems. You did not cause them. You revealed them. There is a difference. She gestured to the bench beside her. Sit, please. They sat in silence for a while, listening to the water. Can I ask you something? Hyejin said finally. Do you regret it? Saving me? No, never. Even though it turned your life upside down? Taman smiled slightly. My life was not that great before. At least now I have interesting problems, Hyejin laughed. It was the first time he had heard her really laugh. The sound made something warm bloom in his chest. I think we are going to be good friends. Taman. I think so too, Your Majesty. When we are alone, call me Hyejin. Please. I have enough people treating me like a crown instead of a person. Okay. Hyejin. They sat together in the garden until the sun began to rise. Two very different people bound together by fate and a moment of courage. 3 weeks passed. Taman learned to navigate the palace and its politics. He attended meetings, mostly staying quiet and watching. The nobles slowly got used to seeing a human at the queen's side. Some even started treating him with respect. But something bothered him. Late at night, lying in his huge bed, Taman kept thinking about the assassination attempt. It felt wrong somehow. Too convenient. He started asking questions, quietly at first. The guards told him the assassins were part of a radical group, but nobody could explain how they got past security. The maintenance workers they impersonated had all been found dead in a storage facility. Taman used his access to the palace computers to dig deeper. What he found made his blood run cold. There were files on humans. Hundreds of them. Medical scans, combat assessments, psychological profiles. The Empire had been studying humans for years, but these files were classified at the highest level. Someone had been testing humans, placing them in dangerous situations and recording how they responded. He found his own file. It listed his reflexes, his decision-making speed, and his pain tolerance. There were predictions about how he would react to various scenarios, including assassination attempts. Someone had known he would try to save Hyejin. They had counted on it. Taman's hand shook as he closed the files. He needed to tell someone, but who could he trust? Daehyun was the obvious suspect, but he might not be working alone. He decided to go straight to Hyejin. He found her in the training hall, watching her royal guards practice. She saw his face and immediately dismissed everyone else. What is wrong? Taman told her everything. He showed her the files on his datapad. Heejin's expression grew darker with every word. Someone in my own court has been experimenting on humans, she said quietly. And they used you to prove their theories. It gets worse. Look at this. Taman pulled up another file. There are humans placed all over the Empire. In military bases, research stations, even on the frontier worlds. Someone is building something. An army, Heejin said. They are building a human army. But why? What is the point? Before she could answer, the palace alarms blared again. This time it was different. This was not a protest. This was a military alert. They ran to the command center. Officers were shouting, and holographic displays showed the edge of Etherian space. Massive red contacts were appearing on the screens. What is that? Heejin demanded. Unknown ships, Your Majesty. Thousands of them. They just appeared at the border. An officer enhanced the image. Taman felt sick when he saw what was coming. The ships were not ships at all. They were alive, organic, covered in writhing tentacles and pulsing with sick light. The Vryn, someone whispered. Heejin turned to Taman. The Vryn are a hive mind. They consume everything in their path. No one has ever stopped them. They wipe out entire civilizations. Why are they coming here? Because we are next. Heejin started giving orders. Get me fleet command. Recall all military forces. I want every ship we have ready to fight. Over the next few hours, Taman learned the truth. The Vryn swarm had been dormant for 100 years. Now they were awake and hungry. Intelligence reported that they had already consumed 3 minor civilizations. The Etherian Empire was the largest concentration of life in this part of the galaxy, a feast for the swarm. Taman stood in the war room listening to generals argue about strategy. They talked about defensive lines and calculated losses. Everything was numbers and logic. You are going to lose, Taman said suddenly. Everyone turned to stare at him. Dahyun looked angry. The human speaks out of turn. Let him speak, Heejin said. Taman walked to the holographic display. The Vryn are a hive mind, right? They think as one. They predict your moves because you are predictable. You fight with logic and strategy. They have seen it all before. And you have a better idea? A general asked mockingly. Maybe. On Earth, when we fought wars, the winners were not always the strongest. Sometimes they were the craziest. The ones who did things that made no sense. Taman pointed at the Vryn forces. Have they ever fought humans before? No. Humans are too primitive to interest them. Exactly. They do not know us. They do not know what we are capable of. Taman felt an idea forming. What if that is our advantage? Heejin was watching him carefully. What are you proposing? Let me train your forces. Not in Etherian tactics, in human tactics. Teach them to be unpredictable. To take risks. To fight like they have nothing to lose. That is insane, Dahyun said. Our military is the most advanced in the galaxy. We do not need lessons from a species that barely has space travel. Your military is about to fight an enemy that has destroyed everyone who thought like you. Taman shot back. Maybe it is time to try something different. Heejin was quiet for a long moment. Then she turned to her generals. He is right. Our traditional methods will not work against the Vryn. We need something new. She looked at Taman. You have 1 week to train a special unit. Show me what humans can do. The generals looked shocked, but no one dared to argue with the queen. Taman spent the next week pushing the royal guard harder than they had ever been pushed. He taught them to use deception, to fake retreats, to attack from unexpected angles. He showed them how to turn their environment into a weapon. Most importantly, he taught them to ignore their programming that said every action needed to make logical sense. The Vryn will expect you to retreat when you are outnumbered, he told them during one brutal training session. So instead you charge. They will expect you to protect your wounded, so you use your wounded as bait. Nothing you do should make sense to them. This is madness, one warrior complained. Yes, Taman agreed. That is the point. By the end of the week, the Royal Guard moved differently. They were still strong and fast, but now they were unpredictable, dangerous in a new way. Heejin watched the final training exercise. Her guards fought against simulation programs that used Vryn tactics. They won every time by doing exactly what the simulations did not expect. Afterwards, Heejin approached Taman. He was covered in sweat and bruises. They call you Ironheart now, she said, because you survived training that would kill most Etherians. I am just stubborn. No, you are something else. Something special. She hesitated. Taman, I need to tell you something. I ran the analysis on those files you found. The person who has been studying humans, who placed you at that ceremony, who set all of this up. Who? It was me. Taman felt like he had been punched. What? Not directly. But I approved the research program 5 years ago. I wanted to understand humans better. I thought if we studied you, we could help you advance faster. Her voice was pained. I never meant for it to become what it did. I trusted the wrong people. They turned my curiosity into something cruel. Why are you telling me this? Because you deserve the truth. And because I need you to know that everything that happened, the good and the bad, started with my decision. She met his eyes. I am sorry. Taman was angry. He wanted to yell, to accuse her. But he saw the genuine regret in her face. We will talk about this later, he said finally. Right now we have a war to win. Together? Taman nodded. Together. The war room never slept anymore. Officers and generals worked around the clock, preparing for the Vryn invasion. Holographic displays showed the swarm slowly advancing through space, consuming everything in their path. Taman stood before the assembled military leadership. Hyejin sat on her throne, but she had made it clear that Taman was leading this briefing. The Vryn have advantages we cannot match, Taman began. They have more ships, they adapt quickly, and they never get tired or scared. But they have weaknesses too. What weaknesses? A general asked skeptically. They have destroyed every fleet sent against them. Because every fleet fought the same way. With logic and predictable patterns. Taman pulled up a simulation. The Vryn hive mind is incredibly smart, but it thinks in specific ways. It expects enemies to act in their own best interest, to preserve resources, to avoid unnecessary risks. He changed the display to show Earth's history. Battles where smaller forces defeated larger ones through suicide tactics, false retreats, and psychological warfare. Humans have never been good at doing what makes sense. We take insane risks. We fight when we should run. We sacrifice ourselves for strangers. Taman looked around the room. That is what confuses the Vryn. They cannot predict crazy. Daehyun stood up. You want us to throw away our military doctrine and fight like savages? I want you to win. Your doctrine has never faced the Vryn. Mine has faced worse. Worse than an unstoppable alien swarm? Daehyun laughed coldly. Yes, other humans. Taman's voice was hard. Earth has been at war with itself for thousands of years. We have fought over everything. Resources, territory, religion, pride. We have learned to fight enemies who think like us, who know all our tricks. The Vryn have never fought anyone like that. Hyejin spoke up. I support this plan. Taman has proven himself. His methods work. The generals shifted uncomfortably. They did not like it, but they could not argue with their queen. I need to contact Earth, Taman said. If we are going to use human tactics, we need actual humans. Volunteers who understand what we are facing. Earth barely has faster-than-light travel, an admiral pointed out. What could they possibly contribute? Crazy people with nothing to lose, Taman said. Sometimes that is exactly what you need. Hyejin authorized the transmission. Taman recorded a message to Earth's unified government. He explained the situation simply. An alien empire needed help against an enemy that consumed worlds. Earth could send ships and crews. In return, the Etherian Empire would share technology and guarantee humanity's protection. He ended the message with something his father used to say. When the job is impossible, send a human. We are too stupid to know we cannot win. The response came 3 days later. Earth was sending a fleet. Not a big one, maybe 50 ships, but every single crew member was a volunteer. Veterans, pirates, explorers, and people who just wanted to see the galaxy burn. Your people are insane, an Etherian captain said when she read the crew profiles. Half of these humans have criminal records. Perfect, Taman said. Criminals do not follow rules. Neither will the Vryn expect them to. While they waited for Earth's fleet to arrive, the Vryn swarm got closer. They were 2 weeks away from the first major Etherian colony. Evacuation efforts were underway, but millions would not make it out in time. Taman spent every spare moment studying the Vryn. He watched recordings of their previous attacks, analyzed their movement patterns, and tried to understand how their hive mind worked. Late one night, Hyejin found him in the archive room, surrounded by holographic displays. You should rest, she said gently. Cannot. There is something I am missing. Some weakness we can exploit. Hijin sat beside him. They had not talked about her confession since that day. The tension hung between them like smoke. "I meant what I said," she told him quietly. "About being sorry. I never intended to manipulate you. I know. I have been thinking about it." Taman rubbed his tired eyes. "You made a mistake, but you owned up to it. That takes courage. You are not angry?" "I am, but I am also grateful. If you had not approved that research, I would never have been at that ceremony. I would never have met you." He smiled slightly. "Sometimes good things come from bad decisions. That is very wise. No, that is very human. We are good at making the best of terrible situations." Hyejin laughed softly. Then her expression grew serious. "Taman, when the Vryn come, the battle will be terrible. Many will die. I need you to know that whatever happens, you changed something in me. You showed me that bravery is not about being powerful. It is about choosing to act when you are afraid. You were never powerless, Hyejin. You just needed a reason to fight instead of rule." "Maybe you are right." She stood up. "Come, I want to show you something." She led him to the palace's highest tower. They walked out onto a balcony that overlooked the capital city. Millions of lights sparkled below. Ships moved through the sky like fireflies. "This is what we are fighting for," Hyejin said. "All those lives. All those dreams. The Vryn do not care about any of it. They only see food. We will stop them." "How can you be so sure?" "Because I have seen what humans can do when they are desperate. And right now this whole empire is about to get very desperate." Taman looked at the stars. "The Vryn think they are the ultimate predators, but they have never met prey that fights back harder than them." Earth's fleet arrived 5 days later. The ships were small compared to Etherian vessels. Patched together, mismatched, and heavily armed. The crews were worse. When Taman met with the fleet commanders, he found himself face to face with people who made his street upbringing look tame. Captain Minho commanded the lead ship. He was missing an eye and had scars covering his arms. "So we are supposed to fight space monsters?" "Yes." "Good. I was getting bored." Taman briefed them on the plan. The human fleet would act as a disruption force. They would hit Vryn formations from unexpected angles, use kamikaze tactics, and generally cause chaos. The Etherian main fleet would then exploit the confusion. "Basically, you want us to be bait," another captain said. Her name was Jiwoo, and she flew a ship that looked like it had been through a dozen wars. "Yes, I like it." "When do we start?" Taman spent the next week coordinating between the human and Etherian forces. It was like trying to make oil and water mix. The Etherians fought with precision and discipline. The humans fought with anger and improvisation. But slowly, it started to work. Etherian pilots learned to cover for human ships during their crazy attack runs. Human crews learned to trust Etherian shields and weapons. Two very different military philosophies began to merge into something new. On the night before the battle, Taman could not sleep. He walked through the ship hangars, watching crews make final preparations. He found Hyejin there too, talking quietly with her pilots. When she saw him, she walked over. "Are we ready?" "No, but we never will be." "That is okay. The Vryn are not ready for us either. I wish I had your confidence." "It is not confidence. It is faith. Faith that when pushed to the edge, people surprise you." He looked at her. "You surprised me. I was just a mechanic. You made me believe I could be more. You always were more. I just gave you a chance to show it." An alarm sounded. The Vryn had accelerated. They would reach the first colony in 12 hours. Hyejin's expression hardened. She transformed from the woman he had been talking with into the Celestial Queen. "All forces to battle stations. This is not a drill." Taman walked to the transport that would take him to his command ship. Before he boarded, Hyejin stopped him. "Come back," she said. "I will do my best." "That is not good enough. Promise me." Taman looked into her eyes and saw something there that made his heart skip. Fear, not for herself, for him. "I promise," he said. They stood there for a moment longer. Then Hyejin did something that shocked everyone watching. She hugged him. A celestial queen embracing a human in front of her entire court. "For luck," she whispered. Then she let go and walked away, her robes flowing behind her. Taman watched her go, feeling the weight of everything that was about to happen. The war for the galaxy was about to begin. The Vryn swarm came like a living nightmare. Thousands of organic ships poured into Etherian space, their forms twisting and pulsing with unnatural life. They did not move like machines. They moved like predators who had caught the scent of prey. Taman stood on the bridge of the command ship, watching the sensors go crazy with contact warnings. Beside him, Etherian officers worked frantically to coordinate the defense fleet. "They are coming in faster than predicted," the tactical officer reported. "Impact with forward elements in 10 minutes. All ships hold formation," Hyejin's voice came through the command channel. She was on the flagship, leading the main Etherian battle group. "Wait for my signal." Taman opened a private channel to the human fleet. "Minho, are you ready?" Captain Minho's scarred face appeared on the screen. He was grinning. "Born ready? Just give the word. Not yet. Let them get confident first." The Vryn hit the forward defense line like a tidal wave. Etherian ships fought back with precise weapons fire, destroying dozens of enemy vessels. But for everyone that fell, 2 more took its place. The swarm adapted quickly, their ships changing formation to minimize losses. "They are learning our patterns already," an officer said nervously. "Good," Taman replied. "That means they think they understand us." The battle raged for an hour. The Etherian fleet fought bravely, but they were being pushed back. The Vryn were doing exactly what everyone predicted they would do. They were winning through overwhelming numbers and adaptation. Hyejin's voice came through again, tight with stress. "Taman, we need to try something different, now. Minho, you are up. Execute Plan Chaos. Finally!" Minho whooped. "All human ships break formation and go crazy." What happened next would be talked about in military academies for generations. The human fleet scattered in every direction, completely abandoning standard combat doctrine. Some ships charged straight at the largest Vryn vessels. Others flew in spirals, firing randomly. A few even started broadcasting Earth music at maximum volume. The Vryn swarm paused. For the first time in the battle, they hesitated. The hive mind was trying to understand what it was seeing. Why were these small ships attacking with no support? Why were they ignoring basic survival instincts? That moment of confusion was all the Etherian fleet needed. "All ships full offensive," Hyejin commanded. The main battle group surged forward, targeting the gaps the human ships had created in the Vryn formation. Precision Etherian weapons carved through swarm vessels while they were still trying to figure out the human tactics. Taman watched his displays. "Jiwoo, status report? Lost 3 ships, but we took out a cluster of their command nodes." Jiwoo sounded ecstatic despite the losses. These ugly things do not know how to handle crazy. But the Vryn were adapting. The hive mind was already starting to account for unpredictable behavior. Ships began surrounding human vessels, planning to crush them through overwhelming firepower. "They are catching on," the tactical officer warned. Then we changed tactics again. Taman opened the fleet-wide channel. "All human ships, fake retreat. Make them chase you into Sector 7. "Fake retreat?" An Etherian captain sounded confused. "That goes against all military doctrine." "I know," Taman said. "That is why it will work." The human fleet turned and ran, their ships racing away from the Vryn. It looked like a panicked withdrawal. The swarm, sensing weakness, pursued aggressively. Thousands of Vryn ships poured into Sector 7, eager to finish off the retreating enemy. They flew straight into an ambush. Etherian heavy cruisers had been waiting in silent mode, powered down to avoid detection. When the Vryn entered the trap, they lit up their weapons and fired at point-blank range. Massive explosions ripped through the swarm formation. The human ships immediately reversed course and attacked from behind. The Vryn were caught in a crossfire, taking devastating casualties. "This is brilliant," Hyejin said over the command channel. There was wonder in her voice. "They fell for something so simple because they assumed we would not sacrifice our apparent advantage. Humans have been tricking each other for thousands of years," Taman replied. "We are very good at lying." But the battle was far from over. The Vryn pulled back their forces and regrouped. The hive mind was learning with terrifying speed. They stopped chasing fleeing ships. They stopped falling for obvious traps. They started using tactics that assumed their enemy would act irrationally. Hours passed. The battle became a nightmare of exploding ships and desperate maneuvers. Both sides took heavy losses. The space around the colony became a graveyard of destroyed vessels. Taman studied the tactical data, looking for any weakness he could exploit. Then he saw it. The Vryn ships were all connected to their command nodes through some kind of biological network. If they could disrupt that network, the entire swarm would lose coordination. But the command nodes were deep inside the Vryn formation. protected by thousands of ships. Reaching them would be suicide. "I need a strike team," Taman announced. "Small ships, fast pilots. We are going into the heart of the swarm." The bridge went silent. Everyone knew what he was asking for. "I will go," said a voice. Commander Jamin, one of the Royal Guard members Taman had trained. "I trust your methods." "So will I," said another. Then another. Within minutes, Taman had volunteers from both human and Etherian forces. Hyejin's face appeared on his private screen. "No, I forbid this. You are too important to risk. We are losing this battle. You know it as well as I do. This is our only chance." "Then send someone else." "Send me, but not you." "Hyejin, I need to do this. You taught me that leadership means making hard choices." He smiled at her. "Besides, I promised I would come back. I keep my promises." She looked like she wanted to argue, but she just closed her eyes and nodded. "Then go and take this." She transmitted a code sequence. "It is my personal command override. If anything happens to me, you will have full authority over the Empire's forces. Nothing is going to happen to you. And nothing better happened to you either." 20 ships made up the strike force. They launched from the main fleet and dove toward the Vryn swarm. Enemy vessels swarmed toward them immediately. "Evasive patterns," Taman ordered. "Do not let them predict your movements." The small ships weaved through the Vryn formation, dodging fire and tentacles that tried to grab them. 3 ships exploded in the first minute. 2 more were caught and crushed. But the rest kept going, pushing deeper into the swarm. Taman's ship shook as weapons fire grazed its shields. Warning alarms blared constantly. He ignored them all, focused on the massive command node ahead. It was a ship 10 times larger than the others, pulsing with sickly green light. Biological weapons studded its surface. It was the brain of this entire section of the swarm. "All ships concentrate fire on the command node," Taman ordered. The surviving strike team members opened fire with everything they had. Energy weapons and missiles slammed into the massive vessel. Its shields held, absorbing the damage. "We are not getting through!" Jamin shouted. "Then we try something they will not expect." Taman armed his ship's self-destruct sequence. "Everyone else, pull back." "I am going in." "No," multiple voices shouted at once. But Taman had already cut his engines and redirected all power to the forward shields. His ship became a missile, racing toward the command node at impossible speed. The Vryn fired at him, but he was moving too fast and too erratically. His shields failed just before impact. The ship's hull began to melt from enemy fire. Then he hit the command node. The explosion was massive. Taman felt himself thrown forward as the ship disintegrated around him. His restraint saved his life, but barely. The cockpit separated from the main hull and tumbled through space. Through blurry vision, he saw the command node breaking apart. Green light leaked from it like blood. The Vryn ships around it began moving erratically, their coordination gone. "Target destroyed," he whispered. Then everything went black. He woke up in a medical bay. Every part of his body hurt. Hyejin was there, her hand holding his. "You are an idiot," she said. Tears ran down her face. "Did it work?" "Yes, the Vryn lost coordination in that entire sector. We pushed them back." She squeezed his hand. "But you almost died again?" "Seems to be a habit." "It is a terrible habit." She leaned down and kissed his forehead. "Never do that to me again." Taman wanted to stay awake to tell her everything would be okay, but exhaustion pulled him back under. Taman drifted in and out of consciousness for 3 days. Every time he woke, Hyejin was there. Sometimes she was sleeping in a chair beside his bed. Other times she was working on reports, but always close enough to touch. On the 4th day, he woke up properly. The pain had faded to a dull ache. Hyejin was awake too, looking tired but relieved. "How bad is it?" he asked. "You broke 6 ribs, fractured your left arm, and suffered severe internal bleeding. The doctors say only a human could have survived that crash." She managed a weak smile. "You really are made of iron. How is the war?" "We won the battle. The Vryn retreated after we destroyed their command nodes. But it was not the end. They are regrouping at the edge of our space." Her smile faded. "We lost thousands of ships. Millions of lives. The colonies we could not evacuate in time were consumed." Taman tried to sit up, but pain stopped him. "We need to finish them. If they come back stronger, all those deaths meant nothing." "The military commanders agree with you. But we lost too many ships. We need time to rebuild." Hyejin stood and walked to the window. "There is another problem. The court is in chaos. Daehyun has been making moves. What kind of moves? The kind that end with him controlling the empire instead of me. Before Taemin could respond, alarms blared through the palace. Not attack alarms. These were internal security warnings. The door burst open. Royal guards rushed in, but not to protect them. They pointed weapons at Hyejin. "I am sorry, Your Majesty," the guard captain said. He looked genuinely upset. "But I have orders from Chancellor Daehyun. You are under arrest for crimes against the Empire." "What crimes?" Hyejin demanded, her voice like ice. "Giving authority to an alien. Abandoning military doctrine. Causing the deaths of millions through your attachment to this human." Taemin tried to stand, but 2 guards held him down. His injuries made him weak. "This is treason," Hyejin said. "Daehyun cannot just take control. He can if the council approves. And they have. You are to be confined to your quarters until a proper trial can be arranged." They took Hyejin away. She did not resist, but she locked eyes with Taemin as they led her out. "Trust me," her expression said. Left alone with 2 guards watching him, Taemin pretended to be weaker than he was. He needed information. He needed to understand what Daehyun was really planning. That night, a figure slipped into his room. Commander Jaemin, the guard who had volunteered for the suicide mission. He put a finger to his lips and disabled the security cameras. "We do not have much time," Jaemin whispered. "Daehyun is planning to execute the queen tomorrow. He is calling it justice for her failures. The council agreed to this, some of them. Others were threatened. Daehyun has been building power for years. He used the war losses as an excuse to make his move. Why are you helping me? Because you showed me what real leadership looks like. You did not send others to die while you stayed safe. You went yourself." Jaemin handed him a data chip. "This contains evidence of Daehyun's real plans. He was the one who ordered the research on humans. He was the one who placed you at that ceremony. He wanted the Vryn to attack so he could use the chaos to seize power. He caused all of this?" "Yes. And now he's going to erase his involvement by blaming everything on the queen." Jaemin helped Taemin out of bed. "Can you walk?" "I will manage." They moved through the palace using servant corridors. Taemin's body screamed with every step, but he pushed through the pain. They reached Hyejin's quarters to find them heavily guarded. "How do we get past them?" Taemin asked. "We do not. We go to the council chamber. That is where Daehyun is preparing for tomorrow's trial." They made their way through the dark halls. Other guards loyal to Hyejin joined them along the way. By the time they reached the council chamber, there were 20 of them. Daehyun was inside, speaking to the assembled council members. He was explaining how Hyejin's obsession with the human had clouded her judgment. "She gave command authority to an alien species," Daehyun said. "She ignored our military traditions. She cost us thousands of lives because she could not see past her feelings for this human pet." Taemin stepped into the chamber. "Is that what you tell yourself?" Every head turned toward him. Daehyun's face went pale. "Taemin," Daehyun said carefully, "you should be in medical care. You are not well." "I am well enough to expose you." Taemin played the data chip on the chamber's main display. Evidence flooded the screens. Communications between Daehyun and the research teams studying humans. Plans to manufacture a crisis. Orders to place specific humans in specific locations. "You created this whole situation," Taemin said to the stunned council. "You studied humans for years, trying to find a way to use us as weapons. You knew the Vryn were coming. You knew we would need unconventional tactics. So you set everything up to make yourself look like the savior." "These are lies," Daehyun said, but his voice shook. "The files are all verified. Your own codes are on the orders." Taemin walked closer despite the pain. "You wanted to be the hero who saved the Empire from both the Vryn and the incompetent queen. But you needed the war to happen first. You needed people to be desperate enough to accept your authority. You cannot prove any of this meant—" "I can prove you sabotaged the defense network the day before the Vryn attacked," Taemin interrupted. He pulled up more files. "You delayed the alert system by 6 hours. That is why we could not evacuate the outer colonies in time. Those millions of deaths are on you." The council erupted in angry voices. Some demanded Daehyun's arrest. Others tried to defend him. But the evidence was overwhelming. Hyejin appeared in the doorway, flanked by loyal guards. "Chancellor Daehyun, you are under arrest for treason, mass murder, and conspiracy against the crown." Daehyun looked around wildly. Some of his supporters moved to help him, but most backed away. He was alone. You do not understand, Daehyun said desperately. I did this for the Empire. We need strength, not mercy. We need control, not chaos. That human corrupted you! That human saved us, Hyejin replied coldly. While you were playing politics, he was teaching us how to survive. Take him away. Guards seized Daehyun and dragged him from the chamber. He shouted accusations and threats the whole way. When he was gone, Hyejin turned to the council. Let me be clear. Taemin's strategies saved this empire. His sacrifice and the sacrifice of every human who fought for us bought us victory. Anyone who questions that can leave the council now. No one moved. Good. Then let us figure out how to finish this war. Later, in her private quarters, Hyejin finally let herself relax. Taemin sat beside her, his body wrapped in medical bandages. Thank you, she said quietly. You saved me again. We saved each other. That is what partners do. Partners? She looked at him with something soft in her eyes. Is that not what we are? Taemin asked. We make a good team. Yes, we do. She took his hand. When this is over, when the Vryn are defeated, what will you do? I have not thought that far ahead. Think about it now. Will you go back to Earth? Back to your old life? Taemin looked at their joined hands. I do not think I could go back. Too much has changed. I have changed. Then stay. Not as my advisor or my hero, just as yourself. What does that mean? Hyejin smiled. It means I am tired of titles and duties. It means when I look at you, I do not see a human or a soldier. I see someone who makes me want to be better. Someone who showed me that strength and kindness are not opposites. Taemin felt his heart race.
Hyejin, you do not have to answer now.
Just think about it. She stood up. Rest. Tomorrow we plan the final assault on the Vryn. I need you at full strength. After she left, Taemin lay in the darkness, thinking about everything that had happened. He had come to this world as nobody, just a mechanic looking for work. Now he was something else entirely. He thought about what she said, about staying, about building something new. For the first time in his life, the future did not scare him. 6 months passed after Daehyun's arrest. The war with the Vryn continued, but the tide had turned. Human tactics combined with Etherian technology proved too much for the swarm to handle. Slowly, system by system, they pushed the enemy back. Taemin stood on the bridge of the flagship, watching the final battle unfold. The last Vryn command cluster was surrounded by allied forces. Human ships darted between the larger Etherian vessels, their unpredictable movements keeping the enemy off balance. They are breaking formation, the tactical officer reported. The swarm is retreating. Do not let them regroup, Hyejin ordered from her command throne. All ships pursue and destroy. The Allied fleet surged forward. Energy weapons lit up the darkness of space. One by one, the Vryn ships fell. When the last command node exploded, a cheer went up across every ship in the fleet. It was over. The war was won. Taemin felt exhaustion wash over him. Not just physical tiredness, but the deep weariness of someone who had carried too much weight for too long. Hyejin walked over to him. In private, she smiled. We did it. You did it. I just helped. No, we did it together. She touched his arm gently. Come. The council is waiting to hear our report. The council chamber was different now. Daehyun's supporters had been removed, replaced by members who actually cared about the Empire's future rather than their own power. They stood as Hyejin entered, showing respect. The Vryn swarm has been eliminated, Hyejin announced. The remaining forces have fled beyond our borders and show no signs of returning. The threat is over. Applause filled the chamber, but Hyejin raised her hand for silence. We paid a heavy price for this victory. Thousands of ships destroyed, millions of lives lost. But we also gained something precious. We learned that strength comes from unity, that different perspectives make us stronger, not weaker. She gestured to Taemin. This human showed us how to win when victory seemed impossible. He deserves recognition beyond what we have already given him. One council member stood. What are you proposing, Your Majesty? A new alliance. Not one where Earth serves the Empire, but one where we stand as equals. Let humanity have access to our technology, our trade routes, our protection. In return, let them teach us what they know. How to adapt, how to survive, how to never give up. Another council member spoke up. You are suggesting we elevate an entire species to our level? They are barely spacefaring. They are warriors who saved our entire civilization, Hyejin replied sharply. They deserve respect, not condescension. The council debated for hours, but in the end they agreed. Earth would become a full member of the galactic community. Humans would no longer be seen as primitives, but as the species who taught the mighty Etherian Empire how to win an impossible war. That night, Taman walked through the memorial gardens. Stone markers filled the space, each one representing someone who died in the war. So many names, human and Etherian, side by side. He found Captain Minho's marker and knelt before it. The old pirate had died in the final battle, ramming his ship into a Vryn command vessel to create an opening for the Allied fleet. "You crazy old man," Taman whispered. "You got your glorious death after all." "He saved 3,000 lives with that sacrifice," Hyejin said from behind him. The recordings show he was laughing when he did it. "That sounds like him." Taman stood up. "Is it wrong that I am glad it is over? All those people died, and I am just relieved I do not have to send anyone else to die. That means you are a good leader. The ones who enjoy war are the ones we should fear." They walked together through the garden, reading names. Some Taman knew, most he did not. But they all mattered. "The council approved the alliance," Hyejin said. "Earth gets everything we promised. Technology, trade, protection. Your people will advance centuries in just a few years. That is good. They deserve a better future. What about your future?" Hyejin stopped walking. "You never answered my question from before. Will you stay?" Taman had been thinking about this for months. About what he wanted. About what he was willing to give up. "If I stay, what would I be?" "Your advisor?" "Your general? You would be whatever you choose to be." Hyejin stepped closer. "But I hope you would also be mine." "Yours?" "The council will think I am insane. The nobles will be scandalized. But I do not care anymore." She took his hands. "I love you, Taman. I have loved you since that moment you threw yourself in front of a blade. For someone you did not even know. You changed me. You changed everything." Taman felt his throat tighten. "I am just a mechanic from Earth. You are a queen who rules billions. You are the man who saved my life twice. The man who saved my empire. The man who makes me laugh when everything seems dark." She smiled. "You are my hero. In every way that matters." "Hyejin, He tried to find the right words. "I love you too. I think I have for a while now. But are you sure? About this? About me? I have never been more sure of anything." She pulled out a small crystal. It glowed with soft light. "This is a bonding crystal. In our culture, it represents a permanent commitment. Will you accept it?" Taman took the crystal. It felt warm in his hand, pulsing like a heartbeat. "Yes," she kissed him then. It was gentle and fierce at the same time. A promise of everything they could be together. When they finally pulled apart, Taman laughed. "The council is going to lose their minds. Let them. I spent my whole life doing what others expected. Now I am going to do what makes me happy." The wedding ceremony happened 3 months later. It was a mix of human and Etherian traditions. Taman wore a traditional Korean hanbok that had been brought from Earth. Hyejin wore silver robes that seemed to be made of starlight. The ceremony was broadcast across the entire empire. Billions watched as a queen married a mechanic, as an Etherian bound herself to a human. Some were happy, some were outraged, but no one could deny that these two people had earned the right to choose their own path. Taman's mother attended from Earth crying happy tears. She kept telling everyone who would listen that her son was always special, even when he was fixing broken engines in their little shop. When it came time for the vows, Hyejin spoke first. "You taught me that being strong means being brave enough to care. Being powerful means being willing to sacrifice. Being a queen means serving those who need you most. I promise to honor you, to stand beside you, and to never forget the lesson you taught me with your actions." Taman spoke next, his voice steady. "You showed me that I could be more than I thought possible. You believed in me when I did not believe in myself. You gave me a purpose beyond just surviving. I promise to be your partner, your friend, and your hero for as long as I live." They exchanged the bonding crystals, which merged into one. According to Etherian belief, this meant their souls were now connected. They would always find each other in this life or the next. The celebration lasted for 3 days. Humans and Etherians danced together, shared food, told stories. It was the beginning of something new, a real alliance built on respect and friendship. On the final night, Taman and Hyejin stood on the same balcony where they had talked before the war. The city lights sparkled below them. Ships moved through the sky, both human and alien designs flying side by side. Do you ever regret it? Hyejin asked. Giving up your old life? Every day I wake up next to you, I know I made the right choice. Taemin wrapped his arm around her. Besides, my old life was boring. This is much more interesting. She laughed. Interesting is one word for it. What do you think the future holds? I do not know. More challenges, probably. The galaxy is a big place with a lot of problems. She leaned against him. But whatever comes, we will face it together. Together, Taemin agreed. They stood there for a long time, watching the stars. Two people from different worlds brought together by chance and choice. Their story would be told for generations. The human who took a blade for a queen. The queen who called him her hero. But to them it was simpler than that. It was just love, pure and uncomplicated. The kind that changes everything. Far below, in the streets of the capital, people celebrated. Human children played with Etherian children, already forgetting that their species had ever been strangers. In the military academies, instructors taught both human and Etherian tactics. In the trade halls, merchants from Earth negotiated with ancient families. The galaxy was changing, all because one man decided to act when everyone else froze. All because one woman chose to see value where others saw only primitives. In the memorial gardens, a new marker had been placed. It did not commemorate death but life. It read simply, "Here two species became one family. Here courage taught us to be better. Here love reminded us why we fight." And high above on that balcony, Taemin and Hyejin watched their new world take shape. Whatever tomorrow brought, they would face it the same way they faced everything. Together.